Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to a really fun update that I wanted to give. Now, I know last week I said that today we were going to be doing the history of speedrunning in Ultimate Alliance 3, but I didn't quite get that video finished to the point that I wanted it. I want it to have a certain degree of polish, and I only wanted to provide that once everything had come together the way that I envisioned it and the way that I wanted it to be. So that video will be coming out on Saturday. In the meantime, I did want to talk about something that I think is really exciting, and that is after looking through a couple of different options, I feel like there are more opportunities for some speedrun categories in Ultimate Alliance 3 that need to be added. And so after the first of the year, I will be adding 3 additional speedrun categories to the game, because there's a lot of fun things that you can kind of do with that. Now, the first 2 have to do with the DLC expansion, because nothing's taken that into consideration up to this point in time. And there's 2 different things that I feel like you'll want to do with this particular expansion to the game. The first is you'll want to do just a basic run through of the game itself, and that is from loading in from this screen and continuing on through the story that is provided within the epilogue or the DLC expansion quest that was provided with the Shadow of Doom DLC expansion. And I just feel like there's a lot of really interesting things that you can do there, particularly because there are quite a few of the laser grids that you have to maneuver that go very fast, and there's certain degrees of strategy that you'll just need to employ in order to make your way through that. And of course, this isn't the starting point. This is where I had something set up for a previous video, but just kind of making your way through these areas I feel would be a really good thing for us to be able to focus on and see how quickly we can make our way through. I feel like this is a speed run that you can get in 30 minutes or less. I haven't done any experiments myself because I really wanted to make sure that it was something that we would do kind of as an initial take and see where the meta develops from there. Now, the unfortunate nature of this particular run is it would have to fall under the New Game Plus category, as you don't have access to this until after you've cleared some certain things out. And that's fine. I feel like there's a lot of good that you can do with that even. But you may want to take into consideration, or there may be room for consideration later on down the road, of doing this in a New Game Plus where you have certain characters banned. That's something that I feel can come into play later on, but I don't want to implement it at this stage early enough on in this phase. So this is certainly one section that's going to be a lot of fun to work around and have a speedrun category that you can play through and do so and the like. Now, the other thing that I feel would be really beneficial to have, and this gets into the second speedrun category that would need to be added, is yes, this map is fun to do on its own, but I feel like because it is a continuation and picks up based off of where the main quest ended off, that you should have a full game speedrun where you play through New Game and go from basically the top of the standard story quest through the end Thane fight, and then you quickly transition over to this and continue the run and get a full game, full run experience. And again, that's something that would have to take place in a New Game situation, because a New Game Plus situation, because I don't believe would be able to access this right off the bat, but I'd have to double check, and there may be the option to just get a New Game playthrough into this area as well. So we'll have to kind of play around with that and see how well that goes. Now, the third and final category that we would want to add for additional speedruns is actually in the co-op section. And there is a co-op version or a co-op speedrun leaderboard currently, but it is exclusively based around the offline mode or the local mode because things work a little bit differently with the online function of a co-op gameplay. And it's really weird. I was doing some research with Skull Spidey a couple of months ago because we were ideally going to do a run to have a go at the co-op speedrun record that's currently there. However, there's two big things that really kind of make this a very interesting category to speedrun. The first of which being, if you queue up into an online game or an online co-op game, this is actually where it starts you. It starts you in the room after the Nebula fight. I assume that you just had too much tutorial type stuff that was present in the earlier sections and it was just cut for whatever reason. Now, I don't particularly agree with that. I think that you should be able to run the game from the very initial sections, even if you're playing online with friends that are not locally with you, but we're not going to see that change happen anymore since this game is well past receiving updates and it's going to stay in this form for the remainder of the game's life cycle. Now, there's a lot of things that we'll see with this game, I'm sure, going into the future in the terms of the speedrun meta, but it's as developed and as finished as it's going to get, which doesn't bode well for the missing costumes for the Fantastic Four and other things. However, you just kind of have to cope with the reality of that sometimes. But I do really feel like there is a need to include that online co-op for, I guess, two different reasons. And we've talked extensively about that first aspect, but the other thing that you'll need to take into consideration is when you're playing online co-op, you can have duplicate characters. You could come in to an online co-op game mode with a full team of Thanos Infinites, if that's what you wanted to do. I mean, it probably wouldn't be the best strategy because they are not the fastest movers, so I would personally, at this stage, recommend using 3 Thanos Infinites and a Nightcrawler, or potentially even bringing along one player that is going to run that Black Panther set, and just knowing that there is a very high likelihood that they are going to end up missing out or end up on the outskirts for a majority of that fight based off of the fact that well, when you're running a certain ISO loadout, he takes a lot more damage, and that isn't exactly something that's highly beneficial to the longevity of a run, but for getting through boss fights quickly, it certainly is the best way to go about it. So I think that that's something worth a lot of consideration, and again, you don't get access to that particular co-op mode or the online co-op mode until after you have completed a new game, and so that one has to be in a new game plus capacity, unfortunately, though I would really love it if you were able to do a online co-op version of the game before completing the main story quest. However, it's just not feasible from the testing that Skull Spidey and I did. So, again, it's as good as it's going to be, and we just kind of have to deal with it. Nevertheless, those are some really exciting aspects for continuing the speedrun community in categories for this game, and I'm excited to see what the community, myself included, end up doing with those different categories. So if you're excited to hear and see a little bit more about these speedruns, make sure you subscribe because I will be covering those when and if they become relevant, and I'll make a couple of attempts myself as that becomes pertinent as well. And you never know who's going to pop onto the scene. It could be one of you. This game is actually a lot of fun to speedrun. And after the first of the year, I will be giving a speedrun tutorial series so you can know where to start and you're not starting from scratch. And you can have as much fun as I have with learning the unique tips and tricks of speedrunning this game. But that's all that I have for you today. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed today's video and or if you are excited to see what these new speedrun categories end up being. And I hope to catch you in the next video. Take care, everyone.